Hi friends, Mario Cavallo here, and welcome to part two of my author's audiobook read of my first book, Catalyst to Change. The first audiobook read, part one, about the last 3 or 4 minutes, the audio was bad, and that happened exactly at where I was on page 37, the 5 rules of rollerblading. Where I was just speaking into rule number 2 and rule number 3. So I'm going to start there for this part 2 continuation of Catalysts to Change. Thanks very much for joining me, and let's begin. The 5 rules of rollerblading. Rule number 1, balance is your goal. Isn't that a beautiful reminder? Balance in everything is goal number 1. Countless words have been written on the subject of balance. The world's oldest spiritual and philosophical writings speak of the magic and need for balance in life. Siddhartha famously achieved enlightenment through the middle way, neither pushing away pain nor pursuing desires. Think about that. And here it is in rollerblading. Just being, just rolling along, just doing, just flowing. Don't take it lightly. As in rollerblading, as in life, not keeping one's balance often means falling hard on your ass and regretting it in ways that you can't imagine. Rule number 2, the road is not smooth and even. People who drive vehicles and enjoy rollerblading hope for perfect smooth roads and paths in the parks and along the beaches and the boardwalks. Unfortunately, often the road is littered with all kinds of little obstructions. Rocks, pieces of glass, garbage, potholes. Some of them are big obstacles. Some of them are little. Some of them are obvious obstacles, and some of them are subtle obstacles that are hard to catch. You will spend plenty of time learning how to identify and overcome the obstacles you face in your life. Rule number 3, you're always in motion. Rollerbladers enjoy that awesome feeling of gliding along in motion with momentum carrying you along. You need that momentum. It's part of the experience. It's part of that nice feeling. Most would agree that meditation, prayer, visualization, these are all essential keys and tools to achievement. But you need movement. You need momentum. If you sit on your butt meditating 24 hours a day, you'll likely still find yourself wanting for a few items on your list because you haven't done anything. You can't just sit at the top of the mountain and achieve enlightenment. You've got to go out there and interact with the world. Make plans, take action. You need to be moving, not on the sidelines. On taking action, let's touch on a point here. Napoleon Hill's achievement formula from his classic Think and Grow Rich. A, imagine exactly what you want. B, ask the universe for it, expectantly, knowing its creation is in fact happening. Oh, and write it down. 3, C, take action to bring it about. Yeah, good idea. D, be ready to receive when things start manifesting and appearing. Now, the follow-up question to C is, of course, well, what actions should I take? And the answer is this: any action. To further clarify, that would be any reasonable, sensible action that moves you in the direction of your goal, even if it doesn't get you the expected result. Any action, even if it's less than perfect, will lead to something new, which will lead to another action. Make a list of the obvious actions that will or may move you in the direction that you want to go, and then just start doing them. Objection: I want to do the most effective actions first. Oh, great, I hear you. You should do your best to identify what those actions are that you should take first to get the results that you want, but often they're not clear. So secondly, trust the universe to respond to you by simply taking action, period. you set the wheels of the universe in motion. The universe will move with you. And proof of this is how we often take an action, and then out of the blue, some unexpected other things happen. Suddenly, things change. Rule number 4, you're always advancing your skill level. Like many things, rollerblading can get boring really fast once you learn the basics. Part of the fun and experience is always pushing the envelope, pushing the edge. Part of the fun and experience is always going a little bit faster than before, down a hill a little bit steeper than last week, taking the turns sharper, generally pushing your limits. That's definitely part of the feeling and the experience of life and achievement, failure and disappointment too. Let me share a word with you on Zig Ziglar. He's a master, a true master of his art, which was sales. He was a famous motivational speaker in the 70s and 80s. We never stop learning, growing, and acquiring higher levels of skills in life. Zig Ziglar, one of the foremost professional speakers and motivators. He's now over 80 years old. States clearly he's still learning, acquiring knowledge, ideas, insights, sharing them with others. I'm the same way. I'm 61 years old, and I'm still learning and learning and learning and learning. It's an inspiring testament to this lesson. I'm quite skilled as a jazz pianist. Now, those words are chosen carefully. I'm not a fabulous master jazz pianist, such as many of my pianist heroes who are full-time professional musicians, Oscar Peterson, Joe Sample. But I have had many paid musician contracts. I often play with other professional jazz musicians. And I don't get thrown off the stage. So, these are the facts of the talents that you have to offer. Let me talk about my friend, Canadian jazz piano pro Doug Louie. I never stopped thinking that my jazz piano skills will continue to develop. Now, Vancouver-based jazz pianist Doug Louie, he's a dear friend, another piano mentor from many years ago. Man, can that man play. Boy, does he have chops. He is amazing. It seems to me there's nothing he cannot do with his magic fingers on that keyboard. Yet he talks about playing in the exact same way I do, practicing and learning more and more every single day. Speaking with him on the phone just last week, he said to me, I've been practicing all kinds of new stuff lately. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Unbelievable. Mastering the piano keys never ends for Doug Louie, and mastering the skills of life never ends for any of us. You got to keep moving, keep pushing forward no matter what. Rule number 5, you will fall. Whoa, that's it. That's the 5th rule of the rules of life is like rollerblading. You will fall. You will fall. So make sure you know the risks in advance and protect yourself accordingly. Make sure you know the risks in advance and protect yourself accordingly. Falling is good. It means you're still alive and kicking and trying. But be wise and be ready so that when it comes, you minimize the damage and the risk. Rollerbladers wear solid protectors on their heads and knees and wrists. Wear similar protection in life and business. Be wise. Measure your risks. Running headstrong into a new project with untested new partners, well, that's risky. What if the deal doesn't work out and you take a major loss? Don't always fear the risk, but make sure to protect yourself. You will fall, so appreciate it and learn from it. In other words, no guts, no glory. 1997, while rollerblading, I fell backwards. I landed hard right at the base of my back, right on my tailbone. I'm sure I fractured it. For 3 months, it ached. Bad. I had to sit crooked to keep the pressure off of it. It was my worst injury, and it's unfortunate. But the fact is, I'd spent over 2 years pushing my skills, learning to go faster and faster and sharper. And I thoroughly enjoyed the glory of doing that. It was fabulous. And as bad as that fall was, it would not be my biggest fall to date. Next chapter, my first speaking engagement disaster. Here's a quote from Samuel Johnson. The business of life is to move forward. I'll never forget it. The humiliation that was coursing through my veins like acid rather than blood. My body, my emotions, the desire to flee, to escape, to get away from the ruin of what I had done was deep, and it was devastating. I never imagined it would, should, or could happen to me. I walked out of the ballroom of that hotel, almost 1,000 people behind me, heading toward the nearest restroom I could find with my only goal to disappear under a rock forever. I wouldn't go on to do another keynote speech in front of a group of people, in front of any audience, for well over 2 years. That's how ruined I was. I was wrecked for over 2 years, gun-shy, scared. I now remember it almost fondly for the lessons that it taught me. It's an experience that should happen to most of us, but I certainly didn't feel that way at the time. It was my 5th or so keynote speaking engagement, and the year was 1985. I was 25 years old, and I was listed as a speaker in the Scottsdale Chamber of Commerce Speakers Bureau. At the time, and that's in Scottsdale, Arizona, in the United States. Now, at the time, I was the regional supervisor for a restaurant franchise company named Peter Piper Pizza, which my Uncle Anthony had created, one of the restaurant industry's biggest family restaurant success stories of the 1980s. Bravo to my Uncle Anthony. My father and my brothers and I, we owned 5 locations in and around Scottsdale, Arizona. As a local business owner, I was invited to speak at a very big telecommunications conference for Bell South, huge regional telecom company, at the Point Resorts, South Mountain. When it was my turn to speak, my name and my face were up on 2 huge 50-foot live video screens to the left and the right of the stage where I spoke, which happens to still be my favorite setup for maximum impact and personal connection with the audience. That's great. You're standing up on stage and you're bigger than life on the stage, up on the screen to your right and on another screen up to your left. There was probably 300 high caliber professionals in the ballroom, most of them senior level executives who had just finished lunch. I'd prepared my speech well, and I was excited and ready to make an impact. Well, I did make an impact. Plain and simple, I blew it. The reason was because they asked me to use a handheld mic, which I was not prepared to do. Because the way I'd prepared my speech, I was holding note cards, and I was going to read through them. And that was specifically by design. So I couldn't hold the note cards and manage and deal with the microphone at the same time. So I got frazzled. There was no wireless mic, no lavalier lapel mic to put on me. I wasn't prepared for the options. I wasn't prepared for anything that might happen, such as a projector breaking, you see. So it was my first speech. Well, I should say it was my first big speech. And I'd mistakenly assumed I would have a wireless clip microphone. I didn't make sure in advance because the event was at a fancy 5-star hotel, and now I never, ever forget such kind of details before an event as a speaker. Well, I had really fallen hard, struck a blow at the very core of who I identified myself as, an aspiring, rising, young, professional career, keynote, motivational speaker guy. I was mortified for 2 years. I really was. You know what? I finally got back up and I kept going. Get up. You. Now. Get up. You'll be dead soon. Remember that. Get up. Go. Now, my friend. Well, for me, after that 2-year hiatus from professional speaking, the pain finally gave way to the passion, the sense of purpose that I knew I still felt. And those stirrings came, and one day I knew it was time to act on them. Jump back on the horse, as they say. Maybe the future would hold more pain, but hopefully it would not be a devastating, paralyzing pain this time around. I created my first motivational self-improvement seminar course in 1987. I was happy with the content, and I knew I wasn't messing around. I went straight to the Clarion Hotel on Scottsdale Road, on a beautiful green lake area. I booked a mid-sized meeting room. I printed up 1,000 flyers. I paid for a booth at the upcoming Scottsdale Chamber Business Trade Show. I gave out my flyers. I shook hands like a politician. I talked candidly. I spent $250 for a small display ad in the Scottsdale newspaper. It was a free teaser event, an opportunity for attendees to sit in on a workshop that would normally cost at least $100 for free. I promoted the event over that month. The response had been light. I didn't get the impression I was turning the city upside down with excitement as I rolled toward the date of the event. So I settled on renting one of the hotel's medium-sized rooms, and I set up 30 chairs. I printed 30 sets of workbook handouts. Simple, nicely laid out. 3 people showed up. 3. I wish today I could remember who they were, because it would be such a kick to call them and say a friendly hello. But at the time, it was another humiliation to bear. Money and time seemingly wasted. But you know what? The truth was, I was prepared for nobody to show up. I was. And in the end, it wasn't a waste, because I treated it like a coaching session. I gave those 3 people a great session. I did not ignore the fact that they were the ones who did show up. I didn't make excuses, and I did not apologize. These are all golden rules for speakers. I said to them, look, often in life we make plans, we work, we do our best, and guess what? We still don't get the results we thought we would. I'd be real happy if there were 20 people here right now, but I'm thinking of that no further, because you are here. We are here, and I'm going to enjoy our intimate little visit around the fireplace today. And I'm going to give you all that I would give 1 or 3 or 20 or 100 or 500 people. I knew who I was. I feel the tears of emotions in me right now as I remember this experience and I share these words with you. These are the experiences which define the quality and direction of our lives. These early experiences define the driving lessons I focus on when I coach clients for their speaking and media venues. And what are some of those lessons? 1, be mindful and worthy of your enormous responsibility to your audience. 2, give them your genuine self. 3, be highly skilled, prepared. 4, give them something meaningful in exchange for their valuable time. They came to see you. Next chapter. Even when you're not that good, you're still really good. I wish to fast forward from those days in the 1980s in Scottsdale, Arizona, to another defining moment that took place around 15 years later. I'll never forget when a friend said the following words to me. It was around 1996 at a marketing conference of some sort in Texas. Now, at that stage in my career, I had established myself as a very effective presenter and pitchman. Having worked as a presenter, giving marketing presentations, and conducting weekend training programs for a number of companies in the travel industry. I spent the previous years traveling all over the United States, speaking to audiences averaging 200 to 500 people, and occasionally to audiences up to 1,000 people, huge hotel ballrooms. I loved what I was doing, and the audience looked forward to my appearing on stage. They knew we were going to have an engaging time together. But I'd realized not all public speaking days are equal. Sometimes you're spot on. Other times, like this day in Texas, you just feel off. You feel out of sync. You don't feel well. Mediocre at best. When I was through speaking, I came off stage and immediately began complaining to one of my colleagues there about how poor a job I felt I had just done. I was just like, I was off. I didn't feel good. It was out of sync. It just was no good. And I knew it and I felt it. There were no big problems, mind you. I just knew it was off. He affectionately slapped me on the back, looked me in the eye and said, even when you're not that good, you're still really good. You did great. They loved it. And you know what? He was right. They did. They did. I wasn't that bad. I was still really good as far as they were concerned. Now, those words bring another powerful lesson that I share with you because they built my self-confidence and understanding of my genuine, hard-earned ability, not my ego. Because this was 15 years later. So that was the day that I realized that I had earned the respect of people because I had achieved a certain level of skill and experience for which there is no substitute, folks. Knowing where I stood added conviction and confidence to every day in my career thereafter. I wasn't looking for ego compliments. I just want to inspire and impact people. I really care about that every time I go on stage. So if I am off on a particular day for whatever reason, well, I notice it and I feel bad about it. But typically, I've noticed that I'm the only one who really notices. Why? Because performance ability is relative to your skill and experience level. People in all kinds of fields become experts after years of hard work, dedication, and development. For example, professional athletes perform at amazing peak levels of performance compared to us mere mortals, right? So even when Michael Jordan has an off game, his shooting is still only off by a few percent compared to when he's in the groove. Even on an off day, he's still a lot better than you and me. So you've gained that hidden riches in this life, if you can say the same about yourself. Every day doesn't have to be a golden day. Every performance doesn't have to be your very best earth-shattering performance. Don't have unreasonable expectations. That will only set your ego up for disappointment. Sometimes it's okay to accept that you did well, but not stellar. Even if you felt a little off, you're still really good at a certain skill set you've mastered. Even at something like being a good husband or wife or mother or father. Next chapter, staying positive. Here's a quote from Joseph Campbell. The way to find out about your happiness is to keep your mind on those moments when you feel most happy, when you are really happy. Not excited, not just thrilled, but deeply happy. So now looking back over the years of your life, ask yourself, are you in a nice, good, and productive mood most of the time? Do you know someone whose mood is too serious, too negative, too anxious all the time? That's their natural default state, right? What's yours? What's your natural default state most of the time? Staying positive has been one of the toughest challenges in my life. As my self-awareness has grown, I've had to face the truth. Most of the time in my life, I was not happy, not in a good mood, like walking along on a cloud, smiling. Rather, I spent a lot of time in a state of anxiety, some fear of failure at the root, plagued by thoughts of not being good enough. I was often quite hyper and manic and reactive. As many of you, I've explored the underlying reasons why I felt unhappy or blocked in some way. Some of these reasons are within our control, while others are not. We can look at events that happened to us in the past. We can examine our reactions to those events. That is where emotional mastery lies, identifying and transforming the habitual reactions that our subconscious mind utilizes to protect us from more of the same. Here's an example. Since I was a child, as far back as I can remember, there was a very special connection felt between me and my mother's aunt and uncle. Through more than 30 years of my adult life, I can't say why I felt this connection, but it's always been there. This particular aunt is dear to me and always felt very special to be around her. My uncle had since passed away, but the feeling with him was always there too. It was only 2 years ago I learned of a painful experience that occurred while my mother was 6 months pregnant with me. I learned that from my mother that my favorite aunt and uncle's infant boy was just a few years old, Giacomo, had died while my mother was 6 months pregnant with me. So I can only imagine how emotionally devastating the loss of their young child was for not only them both, but also my own mother, who was very close with them. So science has suggested we're all affected by the emotional state of our mother while we're still in her womb. When their boy passed away, my mother spent weeks feeling deeply upset over that loss with them. So then what was the message I was feeling as a 6-month-old unborn child in my mother's womb for those 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th month before I was born? I believe I felt it. I believe I felt it, and the message was clear. Something's wrong. Something hurts a lot. There's a loss, a deep pain in the heart of people very close to me. I think as a baby in the womb, that's what I felt, because that's what had happened. As an adult, with my understanding and experience in human behavior and research, I can easily accept the idea that this sad and heartfelt experience impacted my psyche. I also know that to have awareness of such an experience in my life gives me the opportunity and power to go back and minimize its negative effect on me. For example, with the type of hurt in one's history, creative healing and hypnosis can be very helpful. For myself, what helped more than anything was my act of faith, bringing awareness of this event into my present mind, to acknowledge it, to pray about it, to dedicate it to God, to let it go. This story represents just one experience in my life that most would agree could have a deeply negative impact on a person's emotions and create blocks which hold them back in life. And to be honest, I could feel that it was something holding me back, and I didn't know what it was. Something was holding me back from consistently staying in a positive, productive mood. It took time to learn how to do that. No wonder I wasn't getting the results I wanted. No wonder I had these amazing, intense, crystal clear visions and inspirations in my head, but a lot of times I felt I just couldn't make them manifest in reality. Who wants to be around someone who's not in a good mood? Nobody. That's who. You want me to tell you how I made success happen? Well, first of all, let's turn the question around. Who told you in the first place that you couldn't make it happen? But if I have to answer the question, how did I become successful? The first thing that pops into my mind is, I suffered. I failed plenty. I had miserable days when I lost my faith and my hope, and I thought God must be a comedian or a torturer. Some of those things I brought on myself. Other things seemed to come in ways that were totally out of my control and try to ruin me and ruin my plan and threaten to ruin me mentally and emotionally and beat me down to where I could stand no more failure and no more suffering and no more not knowing and didn't want to make any more effort. And then I succeeded. Don't get mad at me for sounding negative or suggesting that life is difficult. You can blame M. Scott Peck. He's the famous author of the famous book, The Road Less Traveled. He started his book with that line, life is difficult. How did I achieve any of my successes? I suffered through a lot of it. I suffered and learned from that suffering. What else? I persisted. I never gave it up. On the subject of persistence, I can credit the book Think and Grow Rich. I begged the universe to make it clear, willing to let it all go. I begged God on my knees. I highly recommend that strategy if you ask me. Show me the way, dear God, I begged. I don't want my way, I want your way. Show me what's best for me. If you don't acknowledge the existence of a creator, you might say, this is called a deep integrity check or insanity check with the universe. You don't have to be spiritual about it. You really need to make sure you're not barking up the wrong tree before you stake your whole soul on a direction for your life. I've been through this cycle several times by now, over many decades. And each time, unexpected good things and growth and awareness and maturity come out of it. It seems to be for many people, that's how life works. Life is not a bowl of cherries. It's not a box of chocolates, and dreams don't always come true. We lose, we suffer, we fail. But what more? Where's the glory? We learn, we grow, we develop a deeper sense of ourself. We discover who we are, and we live who we are. We become aware, more and more aware. We wake up. We know without doubt where our passion is. We go with our inner voice. Let's do that. Let's wake up. It's much harder. It really is. But it's the only way worth living. Thanks for listening, friends. This is going to be the end of Catalyst to Change, my author book read part 2. And coming up soon, I will do part 3 for all of you. Thanks very much for being part of my channel. Please do subscribe and support this channel if you haven't already. I appreciate it very, very much. Check out all the playlists of the variety of videos that I put together here on Mr. Ma's Adventures, Mr. Ma's China Adventures, and Success Adventures, and Political Adventures, and all of the great things that are happening in life, and especially here in China. Thanks again for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.